Have you ever wondered, what if our Constitution was different? Well, for a moment, let's ponder on that. The Constitution, the backbone of our nation, isn't set in stone. It can be changed, tweaked, or entirely restructured through what we call constitutional amendments. These amendments play a huge role in shaping the political landscape of our country, essentially molding the very framework of our society. In the Philippines, there are three key modes of amending the Constitution: Constitutional Convention, Constituent Assembly, and People's Initiative. Each carries its own set of pros and cons, its own unique process, and its own potential impact on our nation's future. We're about to embark on a journey, exploring each of these modes in detail. We'll delve into their intricacies, their implications, and how they can bring about significant changes to our Constitution. As we move forward, we'll delve deeper into each mode and its implications. So buckle up and let's get started. First off, let's explore the Constitutional Convention. This is one of the three ways we can amend or revise the Philippine Constitution. Now, how does it work? A Constitutional Convention is a gathering of elected or appointed delegates who come together to deliberate and propose changes to the Constitution. Think of it as a brainstorming session, where everyone brings their ideas and thoughts to the table. The power of this approach lies in its comprehensiveness. It allows for a thorough review of the Constitution and enables a broad range of amendments. This is a boon for those who believe that our Constitution could do with a comprehensive overhaul. But like everything else in life, it's not all roses. There are a few thorns to consider too. The main drawback of a constitutional convention is the possibility of political bias. The delegates could be influenced by political parties or ideologies, which may color their decisions. And then there's the question of cost. Convening a convention is an expensive affair. There's the cost of holding elections to select delegates, not to mention the expenses related to the convention itself: accommodation, transportation, meals, and so on. All these expenses add up, and guess who foots the bill? Yes, it's the public treasury, which means it's ultimately the Filipino people who bear the cost. Another potential pitfall is the time factor. Given the detailed deliberations involved, a constitutional convention can be a lengthy process. This could delay the implementation of much-needed reforms. So there you have it. The Constitutional Convention is a robust and comprehensive approach to amending our Constitution. It allows for in-depth discussions and a broad range of amendments. But it's not without its downsides. Political bias, high costs, and a potentially lengthy process are all potential challenges. Clearly, the Constitutional Convention has its strengths and weaknesses. But what about the other modes? Next up, we have the Constituent Assembly. Our journey into the modes of amending the Philippine Constitution continues with a look at this interesting method. The Constituent Assembly is a body composed of members of the Philippine Congress, both the Senate and the House of Representatives, convened for the purpose of amending or revising the Constitution. This mode of amendment is often lauded for its efficiency. You see, since the members of this assembly are already part of the government, they are well versed in the workings of the Constitution and the legal language. This means they can hit the ground running and get to work without needing a lengthy orientation period. However, just like a coin, the Constituent Assembly has another side. Critics point out that this method may be prone to political manipulation. The Assembly, being composed of politicians, may be influenced by political affiliations and personal interests. This could potentially lead to amendments that benefit a specific group rather than the Filipino people as a whole. Moreover, there's the worry about concentration of power. With the Constituent Assembly, the power to amend the Constitution is held by a relatively small group of people. This can raise concerns about representation and inclusivity. Are all sectors and regions of the Philippines adequately represented in this assembly? That's a question we have to consider. Despite these concerns, it's important to remember that the Constituent Assembly, like any other mode of amendment, is not inherently good or bad. Its effectiveness and fairness depend on how it's used and how its members conduct themselves. In the end, the Constituent Assembly offers a unique combination of efficiency and familiarity with the Constitution. but it also carries with it the risk of political manipulation and potential concentration of power. It's a complex method with its own set of pros and cons, just like the Constitutional Convention we discussed earlier. The Constituent Assembly presents a different set of advantages and challenges, but there's still another mode to consider. So, stick around as we explore the final method of amending the Philippine Constitution, the People's Initiative. Finally, let's turn our attention to the People's Initiative. The People's Initiative is a fascinating mode of amending the Constitution in the Philippines. You might say it's a little bit like democracy in its purest form. It's a process that allows us, the people, to propose amendments or revisions to the Constitution ourselves. Sounds empowering, right? Let's talk about the pros of this method. The first, and arguably the most important advantage, is that it allows direct citizen involvement. It's by the people and for the people, in the truest sense. Through this process, citizens can directly express their desires and needs, bypassing the need for representation. It gives a voice to the grassroots, to the common man. However, like any other mode, the People's Initiative is not without its fair share of drawbacks. One of the primary challenges is the difficulty in gathering signatures. To initiate the process, 12% of the total number of registered voters in the country must sign the petition. That's no small feat and requires a massive amount of organization and mobilization. Furthermore, there's the potential for misinformation. In a world where fake news can spread like wildfire, it's essential that citizens are well informed about the proposed amendments. Misinformation could lead to ill-informed decisions that may not truly reflect the will of the people. And let's not forget the financial aspect. Running a nationwide campaign to gather signatures and inform citizens can be a costly endeavor. This could potentially limit the ability of less affluent groups to initiate a People's Initiative. In conclusion, the People's Initiative is a democratic tool that places power directly into the hands of the people. It's an empowering method that allows citizens to have a direct say in the Constitution. However, it also presents significant challenges in terms of logistics, potential misinformation, and costs. The People's Initiative is a unique mode with its own set of pros and cons. Now, let's summarize. So we've dissected each mode, but what does this mean for us? Well, let's take a step back and look at the big picture. We've explored three modes of amending the Constitution: the Constitutional Convention, Constituent Assembly, and People's Initiative. Each one has its own unique characteristics, benefits, and drawbacks. The Constitutional Convention, remember, is a group of individuals elected for the sole purpose of revising the Constitution. It's independent, democratic, and allows for comprehensive changes. But it's also time-consuming and costly. On the other hand, the Constituent Assembly is made up of our existing lawmakers. It's quicker and less expensive, but there's the potential for conflict of interest. Plus, the changes that can be made are more limited. Lastly, we have the People's Initiative. This method gives us, the citizens, the most direct control. We can propose changes ourselves, but it's a massive undertaking. Gathering signatures, ensuring the proposal's legality, and running a national referendum isn't easy, and it can be quite expensive. So, why does knowing all this matter? Well, it's simple. Our Constitution is the backbone of our nation. It defines our rights, our government structure, and the principles that guide us as a society. Any changes to it can greatly impact our lives and the future of our country. Understanding these modes, then, is crucial. It helps us critically evaluate any proposed amendments. It empowers us to participate in the process, whether by voting in a constitutional convention, lobbying our representatives in a constituent assembly, or even launching our own People's Initiative. In the end, the power to shape our Constitution lies in our hands. And with knowledge comes the power to make informed decisions. So let's use this knowledge wisely for the betterment of our nation and for the generations to come. In conclusion, amending the Constitution isn't a simple task. It's a process that takes time, effort, and a deep understanding of our nation's needs. It's a delicate balancing act between preserving our history and adapting to the ever-changing landscape of our society. Each mode of amendment, Constitutional Convention, Constituent Assembly, and People's Initiative, has its own strengths and weaknesses. but they all share a common goal: to refine and improve the principles that guide our nation. Whether it's through representatives in a convention, lawmakers in an assembly, or the collective voice of the people, each process allows us to shape our nation's future. It's a testament to the power of our democracy and the importance of our participation in it. So, my fellow citizens, let's stay informed. Let's understand these processes and engage with them. Because at the end of the day, it's our nation, our Constitution, and our future. Remember, our Constitution is a living document, and as we evolve, so too should our guiding principles.